Greetings, beautiful souls. And today's question is, are there progressives, political progressives, involved in the homesteading, rural living, back to Eden kind of movement? And I am here to say absolutely. We are out here, we are loud, we are out, we are proud. And I just want to just give a little background and history of that, because so much of the content that I see in relation to rural living and homesteading is more on the conservative side of the political spectrum. There's some trad wife stuff, and I'm just going to say, if a man and a woman want to get married, they want to live in a more traditional way, but they have an equal power dynamic. The wife has as much say in what happens in the household as her husband. She doesn't have to be submissive to him. She has her own money, that kind of thing. Then more power to them, right? But we are not going back to the 1850s when my Irish ancestor embarked on a ship leaving behind the Irish potato famine and the colonization by Britain at the time, UK now. Or we are not going back to the 1950s when neither of my grandmothers were allowed to sign off on a mortgage by themselves, own a business. They weren't allowed to have any other careers other than nurse, teacher, daycare worker, something like that, maybe working in a nursing home or something. And they couldn't open their own bank account, and they, just barely, some aspects of society were just barely getting the right to vote. We're not going back to any of that. So when we say traditional or conservative lifestyle, that does not mean we're going back to a time when other people didn't have rights. And that's what makes me a progressive, is I'm not looking back, I'm looking forward. I'm saying here we are as a society. And I lived in urban areas for, since I was 22, and I just moved back to a rural area, and I'm in my 50s. So 25 years of living in a city, kind of following the rat race, doing all of that. And I'm coming back to a lifestyle that I used to enjoy and really resonated with me as an earth empath, as an animal and plant empath. When I was a child, when I was a child in the late 1970s, my parents left the suburbs and moved and immigrated out to a remote valley in Oregon. And for those of you who are tuning in across the globe, that is on the western side of the United States, just north of California. And at the time, it was about 10 years after the civil rights movement in the United States. All of my parents and their friends were hippies, but now they were like 30, 30 something, deciding to move out to the land together, live off grid as much as we can. We had a whole series of books called the Foxfire books, and they were traditional crafts and, gardening expertise. And that was our encyclopedia. We had a number of herbalism books. And I grew up that way. I grew up on a farm that used permaculture principles, and that was kind of a new philosophy at that time. And permaculture in that sense, and the way that we did it back then was, for example, we raised rabbits and we collected the manure from the rabbits. We would compost that on the compost pile. And then once it had decomposed a little bit, we would actually put cheesecloth over a bucket and pour hot water over the top of the rabbit manure, and it made a manure tea. It was very rich in vitamins, nutrients, minerals, everything that the plants needed, and we would go down the row of the plants and we would dump that manure tea onto the plants. And let's say we're growing spinach or broccoli or carrots, and when we would trim off the different parts as we were canning or cooking, we would save those greens and we would take them back outside and we would give them to the rabbits to eat, who would then poop again and go around and around. And so this was some of the ideas of reduce, reuse, recycle, permaculture. It was very early back then. And now permaculture is really about the lifestyle that you're choosing, a sustainable lifestyle for yourself, for your family. It's about looking to the future. How do we gather in like-minded communities? And of course, communes and all of that kind of thing have been tried many, many times throughout human history. Intentional communities are really rising right now, where different people kind of buy land together. They build their own maybe earth ship or earth bag home or a cob style home. And then, they all have a community garden and everybody pitches in and different people play different roles. And of course, like any other system or community, there is conflict that has to be worked through. Some of those communities are more secular. Some of them are, really overtly spiritual, whether that's Buddhism or metaphysics or even Christian, right? And there's these different kinds of communities that are popping up now. And so, there's a range of people who are drawn to a permaculture lifestyle, a lifestyle where you try to consume less, try to lower your carbon footprint on the earth, reduce the amount of trash that you're using, grow your own food, be in community with others and be a support system for others when other people need you. And so all of this is really trending right now, especially after the COVID quarantine. And it's also some people just wanting, like me, to get back to their roots. I mean, I was disconnected from the land for so many years. And I found pockets, there were nature preserves and parks that I walked in and all those things in every urban environment I ever lived. But this is different. Okay, it's very dark here at night. So if we don't have the light on outside the house, you could stand outside and see, so many stars, and they're so bright in the sky. Even right now I'm looking over my neighbor's fence and I can actually see, the pine forest in the distance. It's, trees right here at my front door. And, cutting wood and creating our own biological water filter to filter our own tap water and learning some of these traditional skills. So we can learn traditional skills. We can learn cooking over a fire. We can learn how to work with the kinds of foods that are available at different seasons instead of expecting all this food that would not be in season to be grown in a greenhouse for our convenience. There are many ways that you can involve yourself in permaculture, and you don't have to move out to a more remote location as we have done, although we are surrounded directly by our neighbors. You can do it right there in your own kitchen, in your own home. And I'm going to be sharing more of this information. But I wanted to make the point that this is actually a progressive movement, not a regressive movement. Even if there are skills that, harken back to the 1850s or even earlier, it doesn't mean that from a social and cultural perspective that we want to go back to those times when women and people of color and the LGBTQ community did not have equal rights. And we're not going back. We're not going back. But we are going forward. And I am a progressive, a proud Green Party voter, a progressive. I'm pushing even the Liberal Party in our country to do better and to be more ethical and not take corporate money and not focus on profit over people. These kinds of things, every action we're taking, every choice we're making is about a permaculture system. It's about being a part of the greater natural world and rolling with those cycles. So in the winter, kind of being more quiet, introspective, doing planning. And then as the spring comes out, we're planting seeds and we're getting out into the world and enjoying the flowers, the butterflies, the birds, creating a habitat perhaps even in your suburban or urban backyard or on a balcony. There's ways that you can do this that are progressive, that help to heal the earth, that help to heal our spirit, that can create a sense of community and sharing, right? So I have an area in the back, and it depends on how long we'll stay at this particular location because we are renting this homestead. But there's an area in the back where it would be perfect for a small orchard. And there are many people here, indigenous people in the Raramuri culture, who I could harvest that or invite them to come and harvest, and I could feed them with a food forest. So we have wild raspberries, we have amaranth, which is coming up. There are dandelions coming up all over the place, which you can eat in salad. You can make tea, you can make wine. I was like, maybe I make some spring dandelion wine. These are things that we can create, and we can find our soul again. Even if you cannot make the kind of shift and move that I have made, or you're planning for it for the future, but you're not quite there yet, it's okay. You can do small things to change your perspective on why are you on this planet? What are you here to do? And to be a land and water and sea and forest and beach and mountain protector. You can donate to great organizations that do this kind of work, or teach people horticultural and permacultural principles. There's many ways that we can be engaged in this kind of lifestyle. And I'm just here to share what I'm doing. And maybe it will inspire you, and maybe it will spark something in your heart about getting back to nature, getting back to Eden, putting your feet on the ground. So after this, I'm going to go because it's warm. It's December here, but it's warm. So I'm going to take off my shoes and I'm going to put my feet on the ground right next to the giant abuela tree. And I'm going to be one with all that is and come into greater peace within myself. Because permaculture is not an external journey, it's also an internal journey. Permaculture stands for permanent agriculture, permanent growth, permanent harvesting, permanent sharing of resources, permanent healing. And that's what we're here for, my friends. So thank you for joining me. And I hope to see you soon. If you really like this kind of content, you can please click like and subscribe to help me grow my YouTube channel. It really helps the algorithm to show this kind of content to more people who want to be inspired to begin to live a different kind of life, a life more in concert with their heart and their soul's passions, and more in concert and in partnership with the earth and those around us. Namaste.